So definitely visuals can really help provide some things for students. And then we can also look at how we're organizing our lessons in our classrooms. Because we all know that unexpected behaviors, if a student can't communicate what they want or need, and they're going to do that with an unexpected behavior instead, like when we looked at that flow earlier, we know that's going to cause some interference with learning. There's going to be lost instructional time. So we're going to look at a couple of tools and some ideas of things to help students regulate. So visuals are always going to be one of my first go-tos. A lot of times when students are overwhelmed, visual supports can decrease anxiety. And this is because an audio input is usually a one and done, where a visual is going to stay for a student. So knowing what's coming next, seeing the next steps, seeing the directions, allow them to continuously go back to them. Having routines in place. So practice expectations in your classroom so students know what to expect, and they can communicate with you when things aren't going the way they're supposed to, or they're not feeling comfortable, but they don't need to be spending time with their communication trying to figure out what's going on. There should be expectations and routines for everything from how much of this assignment do you have to try, even if you say no, to where do you turn in papers, to how do you ask for help. There's also a couple of tools here, Bouncy Balls and Classroom Screen. These are both free online tools and websites. They're linked in here if you are on our bit.ly. The first one, Bouncy Balls, is it's a bunch of balls on a screen, but it uses the microphone on your device to capture the volume of the classroom. And the louder the classroom is, the more the balls bounce, and the quieter the classroom is, the more still the balls are. So obviously the first time you use this, every student yells because they want to watch the balls go all over, right? So be aware of that. But this can be a really good way to work on some of that regulation with students, especially as they're practicing how to communicate things and an appropriate volume and level to be doing that to get the reaction that you want. Also, Classroom Screen then does have a paid version if you want to save your screens, but if you want to just use them one and done, there is a free version for that. And what that does is just allows you that toolbar on the bottom allows you to click and open up red, green, yellow light, timers, QR code for things, countdown clocks, a quick place to be able to type in directions, to be able to draw. So it's a really great way to add visuals to your board very quickly. A lot of times I talk with teachers who really want to add those visual supports, really want to add those things for students, but maybe don't have time in advance to get them ready. Classroom Screen is a great way to do that. So this is a question that I have pondered for years when working with a lot of my students. And a lot of my students, when they're feeling escalated and they may be yelling or they may be, shutting down, a lot of times the words I'll hear are, okay, you just need to calm down. You just need to calm down. And what I've run into over the years, and this isn't every student, but there's a lot of them, especially students who struggle with communication, right? They might not know what calm feels like. A lot of our students that are struggling with communication are constantly in this feeling of overwhelm, this constant feeling of not being able to communicate what they need. And so there's always that underlying anxiety, anger, fear, all of those emotions we talked about earlier. And calm doesn't make sense in all of that. So we have to be aware that for some of our students, they don't know the baseline that they're supposed to be getting to. So it's really important, as we're going to be talking here in just a little bit with some of these self-regulation strategies, is to use our words to communicate what does calm feel like. When we
also don't know what any of those emotions feel like necessarily. Sometimes they don't have the words to even say, I'm mad. They may have that feeling rising in them, but they don't know how to express that. So that really goes for a lot of different things in regulation and really teaching what that emotion is that they are exhibiting and giving them the words for that.
I would agree.
So some of you may know Judy Endow. I completely forgot about her, and Cassie brought her up when we were meeting and putting this presentation together. She lives in the Madison area, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think so. She is an individual with autism, and she has this really great, I think maybe 10 12 minutes
About
long,
10
something
minutes.
like that. Yeah, it's not super long. I highly encourage you guys to watch the whole thing. We're just going to watch a little snippet here and then talk about it. So she talked to the last slide, and since you didn't get the whole 12 minutes of it or whatever, was we take a break. So neurotypical individuals may take a break, but an individual with autism, that same exact behavior then is viewed as they're off task, and how we associate some of the feelings and some of the actions that we're seeing totally different in individuals that we consider neurotypical in the classroom compared to individuals that have autism. And she goes through and has lots of these examples in this video, and it's staggering. It kind of caught me off guard because I see that a lot in classrooms, but how we interpret things differently based on just knowing what that disability area is, like Cassie's has explained throughout the presentation. We all have behaviors, we all show emotions, and yet we have to think of them not always as negative, and that there's nothing wrong with us if we're expressing those behaviors. That's okay to do. So Judy has some great examples throughout that video of where behaviors become sort of interpreted differently based on disability.
I think that's a great point too, to bring up that relationship piece, because if you know your student and you know their behaviors and what they're trying to communicate, it's much easier to read those behaviors than automatically assume. And also, to go back to the very first question, no child wakes up in the morning, wanting to not be successful, right? Every child wakes up in the morning wanting to be successful. Judy there did. She was doing what she needed to do to be able to get through to the next thing. And people automatically assumed it was a negative. So it's something we definitely need to be aware of. So a couple of tools we want to give here just for some ideas for self-regulation. One of my favorite ones, and I actually don't have it handy for once, it's called the PIP. When we're talking about that quote of, how do I be calm when I don't know what calm feels like? This is actually the tool that I've used with a lot of students on this. And it's just a little device that you hold between the tips of your finger, and it reads the electrical impulses in your fingers to show you how stressed you are. And for example, it'll give a line, and it will show if you're calming down, the line will go down. If you're escalating, the line will go up. And it's really interesting to watch students, because I've had students who say, I am calm, and the line is like way up here, and they don't recognize what that feeling is. And this is one of the best tools I've found for students to visually see calm and recognize when their body is matching that. So it's really interesting.
And if you've ever seen Cassie present in person, she usually has the PIP with her, and she'll let you try it, and it's really pretty cool.
It is. It's awesome. I've also a great experience with this. If you ever have a chance with it and you have students who are struggling, have them hold on to it and then talk to them about their day. And when they get to periods that they struggle, you can watch it go up, and classes they're comfortable in, you can watch it go down. And it really gives you a good idea of where you need to work on the student's day. So it's pretty cool. And then some iOS apps here to check out. There's mood journals, mindful powers. That's that little cool blue guy over there. You can like pet on him and he smooths out and he purrs. He's kind of fun. If you rub too fast, then he kind of yells at you and makes faces. There's countdown timers, breathing zones. There's a habit tracker, right? And there's lots more of them out there, but these are some great go-to free options, because free is good. The PIP's not free. That one's about 100. But all the apps that go with it are free. So again, we just really wanted to give you some things to try going forward.
And back in October, I did a presentation with Lydia Dolly. She is an individual who uses AAC. She lives in the Madison area now as well, too. And she went to UW Whitewater for speech and language. She's also an individual that has cerebral palsy and uses an AAC device. And she has a company, Click Speak Connect. And this was a post that she put, I think, on Instagram, but I thought was really really powerful because it comes from that user's perspective. So let's talk about emotions. When I was younger, I had a lot of meltdowns because nobody understood what I was saying, which caused me to kick, hit, cry, scream, and even hit myself. I lost total control over myself. I got even more angry when people told me to calm down and pushed my communication device in my face to tell them what was wrong. Imagine if somebody kept asking and pushing you to do something that you were sick of when you are mad, sad, and frustrated. You probably wouldn't want to throw it. You would probably want to throw it at them and tell them to buzz off. Not being able to communicate or being able to communicate, but it's slower than your brain creates emotions, that gets bundled deep down, and one day it overloads you. This might be how other AAC users feel too. So we have to remember that when we're thinking about communication systems. The answer is not always to push that communication device in front of them and say, tell me how you're feeling, because that frustration with the device could be causing some of those emotions, or they may just be so dysregulated that they don't want to use it. And so honoring that, giving them some space and some time. And you can always go back and talk about what happened when they are calmer or in a better place to be able to share with you what was going on in that moment. So I know I experienced this. I have an explosive child myself. And so when she gets in that state of mind, we know that there isn't anything we can do, giving her time and space. And then eventually when she's calmed down, we can talk about why she was angry, what was happening. But in that moment, I mean, we just all get frustrated. So sometimes we just need to remember that we have to honor where that individual is at that time and work on these skills when they are in a more ideal state in order to really focus on learning.
And I think this just ties back to when we asked everybody, what emotions do they have a hard time expressing? If you are trying to express that emotion, or you're in a place where you're not ready to express it, and somebody is pestering you and asking you to express it, how are you going to feel? Right. And so we have to remember that with our students. If they have a hard time expressing a wide range of emotions, shoving an AAC device at them and demanding that they express it in that moment isn't fair. Because
and it doesn't even have to be an AAC device. It can just be even asking them to tell you in that moment verbally too can be really difficult. So
and a lot of times they already are telling you with their physical, with their behaviors. They're already communicating with you. Acknowledge that, honor that. If I'm walking on the far side of the hallway and I'm not looking at you, honor the fact I don't want to talk to you right now, right? I don't need to say it. And we need to do that with our students as well.
So our last slide really is this reminder that a house will stand if the roof is shaky, but it falls apart if the foundation is not secure. So we really need to work on these foundational skills of emotion in order to really build on that and have really successful students.